Here in the United States, Veterans Day is an annual celebration when we honor the country's 18 million veterans. This year, PBS is presenting a film on the lessons of the Iraq War. More than 4,000 Americans perished, 32,000 were injured during the 8-year war, which started in 2003. Two of the deadliest battles of the Iraq War occurred in Najaf and Fallujah. With us is Michael Pack. He's president of Manifold Productions and director and producer of The Last 600 Meters. The film focuses on those two battles. Michael, what was unique about the Battle of Fallujah that differed from the combat experiences, say, of those who served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam? Anything?
Yeah, these are very, very different kinds of wars. So it's not like World War I, World War II. It's closer to Vietnam, but this is a counterinsurgency. So, and there's political pressure on the combatants in a different way than there was in World War II. For example, we showed this film to recon Marines who had been island hopping in the Pacific in World War II and ahead of the Marine Corps, and they said they could not do what the young Marines in our film did, where they don't know whether somebody's an insurgent or somebody is a civilian that they have to help. They don't know whether someone's is hiding an ID is going to kill them, or is someone that they're supposed to be teaching English and giving candy to their children. So it's a very different kind of war, and we try to depict it from the point of view of the people who fought there. It's called The Last 600 Meters because a Special Forces sniper says, I don't make foreign policy, I deliver the last 600 meters of it.
And in your film, you depict the huge cemetery in Najaf, the Wadi al-Salam, the world's largest by area, by the way. What was the challenge for the Marines fighting a battle there in that cemetery?
It was a horrific battle. That was Najaf in the south against the Mahdi army, Shiite insurgents who had taken over the city. And the cemetery, as you say, was vast, huge, and weird. You can see in the images of the film one tomb on top of another and a huge underground catacomb area. And they're fighting in 330-degree heat. The Marines had to go in and come out and have IVs with water in them to rehydrate, and then they got back into the battle. Some of them left the IV stunts in their arms so they could more easily hydrate. And it was just a horrific, surreal battle. The Marines involved in it, tell the story of that. And then, of course, the Mahdi army, like the insurgents in the north, used civilians to hide behind and mosques. And in the end of this end part of that battle, they all cluster in the Imam Ali Shrine, which is one of the holiest sites in Shia Islam, which Americans couldn't bomb or attack. And we were designing a way to get in there with Iraqi commandos when the whole thing kind of found a political half solution.
So, Michael, what are the lessons from the Iraq War? What did we learn?
I don't really feel you generously said my film tells the lessons, but it really doesn't. We really give the experience of the battle from the point of view of this. It's a mainly Marine battle, but from the Marines and soldiers who fought there. And it's their story, a battle story like Gettysburg or Iwo Jima, like telling any story of any battle. And we leave it to the audience to draw conclusions. It's really more of a descriptive and experiential film. I want the viewer to feel like he's in the battle with these guys, and they look right at the camera. They tell first-person stories about footage that they're in. So you really get a sense of what's happening in this kind of warfare, which is going on today in places like Ukraine and especially in Gaza. Hamas uses a lot of the same techniques as both the Mahdi army and the Sunni insurgents in the north.
Well, let's talk then about the Iraqi war veterans. Many still suffer from the scars of that war, physical, emotional challenges, including PTSD, drug and alcohol addiction, marital problems, divorce, suicide. So what must be done for these veterans that's not being done by our government and churches? You know them well.
Well, I think that, as one of our Marine veterans said, of those that are actually in combat, and as you know, it's not a huge percentage of the military that's in combat. They talk about the tooth to tail ratio, the number that are actually fighting versus support. But those that are in combat, one of our Marines said to me off camera, they all have PTSD. It's like a spectrum from mild to severe. You can't go through these battles without being emotionally scarred for life. But I think what we try to do, which I think isn't done enough, is actually to celebrate what they did in battle, not just make them pathetic figures of, worthy of our sympathy, but understand what they did in battle, their heroism and courage, not just their struggles and difficulties. And you can see in the film many instances of incredible heroism under tremendous pressure. But I also think on Veterans Day, we have to celebrate them in terms of their valor, not just their suffering.
Well, how about personally? I'm sure you'd agree that we should honor them not only on Veterans Day, but every day of the year.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that? Me as an individual, you as an individual?
I think we need to understand them. We need to know what it means to be in these kind of battles. And I think that would make us also more cautious before sending them to war. I'm not saying we shouldn't ever do that, but we should do it cautiously and knowing what we're sending these young men and women into to do. But I think that we need to understand what war is and what we're asking. I think that's an important thing to do.
Okay, and maybe just going up to them and thanking them, maybe buying them a meal, something like that. The
Well,
film.
you can't do enough of that. That's certainly true.
Okay, the film, The Last 600 Meters, again, will be broadcast here nationally on PBS on the eve of Veterans Day, November 10th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Michael Pack, thank you for being with us and for honoring our Marines and veterans by presenting the war from their perspective. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be on your show.